Hi, this is Emily Brown with Library 285 doing my presentation on my chosen research method, which is qualitative exploratory survey. Research steps to be taken. And this is really important. You need to consider the objectives of the study and how the data will be used before selecting a research method. And then the steps will be selecting the research method, selecting the type of data collection, selecting the sample technique, collect the data, analyze and interpret the results. Select the research method. Examine the research question to answer. Consider the type of research study, be it qualitative, quantitative, or mixed methods. For this example, I'm choosing qualitative methods. From there, decide which method of research will work best for the study. There are many types of research methods that work well with qualitative research. Here are some of them: survey research, experimental research, historical research, operations research, modeling, systems analysis, case study, Delphi study, content analysis, and many more. For this example, I'm selecting survey with an exploratory focus. Exploratory survey. What is an exploratory survey? A survey, often linked with qualitative research, that explores a phenomenon. What can an exploratory survey do? It can help clarify concepts. It can be used to help establish priorities for future research. It can identify new problems. It can be used to gather information. Pros and cons of exploratory survey. Pros: it can explore unknown phenomenon. It is open-ended research. Cons: it's best used when there's no clear research question, or for example, a hypothesis to test. It doesn't work well with that. And finally, the results are unknown, which can be a severe con. Select the data collection type. What technique of data collection will work best for the study? Established techniques for qualitative research include observation, interviews, and questionnaires. If none of the above techniques are appropriate, then a new technique can be found and created. The research method I'm going to select for this is a questionnaire survey. Selecting the sampling technique. Determining which is the best type of sampling technique, probability or non-probability. Probability sampling is usually used in quantitative research because it's completely random sampling, and the researcher is able to use statistical methodology, for example, mean mode, standard deviation, to infer information about the greater population, and it's the more scientific of the two. Non-probability sampling means the sample is not able to be generalized to infer information about the population because the sample is not random. They're often cheaper and easier to obtain, and we're going to select that one for this. And there are multiple types of non-probability sampling. Accidental sampling, which is surveying the first people in the door on a first-come, first-served basis, which has examples in librarian world where you would have perhaps somebody standing at the door to the library and asking the first people who come in if they'd like to do the survey. Then there's quota sample, which is just like the accidental sampling type, but you want to include different elements of the population, so you'd have a quota for, this type, and then once it's filled up, you would stop asking people and move on to the next quota needed. There's also snowball sampling, where members of the population provide information to identify and locate other members of the population to participate. There's purposive sampling, selection of sample with a purpose in mind. There's self-selected sample, where individuals volunteer themselves. And incomplete sample, where a large percentage of cases selected do not respond or participate in the study. Which sampling type works best? Consider the type of study: qualitative, quantitative, or mixed methods. Consider your research method. Exploratory survey is selected for this one. Consider the population of the study. Are they a vulnerable population? Are there other concerns to note? We have to pause here. Thank you.